Hey, sister, sit and store what I'm about to preach on. Damn, sister, close the door. Watch what you step out on. I said, hey, sister, so before you become a sin, I said, hey, sister, there is more, even if you think there isn't. When you live your life day to day, there will always be obstacles in your way. But don't let that get you down, girl.
And we are back for day 25 of this amazing 30 days of HERstory with yet another sister. Hey, sister.
Hey. Happy belated birthday, and happy birthday to your daughter.
Thank you on her behalf. This is, I don't know, it's really cool having the two in one. It's the only way people remember mine because, you know, once you have a kid, nobody remembers that you exist anymore. So
100%.
But yes, and then it's not like the Christmas birthday combo, so you're not worried that you'll only get one gift, you know? So it works out.
Awesome. And people have recovered from Christmas, so it's actually a good month.
There we go. This is the first month that people really like. I mean, in February, you're forced to spend, you know, for Valentine's maybe, and then in March is the first time you get to like happily spend money.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Carolee, I would like you to share with everybody else some of the amazing things that I know about you. I could sit down here and brag about you and show off about you, but I would like you to do that for yourself.
Oh boy. All right. So hi everyone. My name is Carolee Parks. I've worked with children in childcare for over 17 years. I've worked with children who have had behavioral concerns in daycares, and I supported the staff with dealing with those children in the daycare and just kind of giving them following through with strategies on how to implement those strategies for the child and still meet the needs of the other children in the classroom at the same time. What else can I say? I talk about mental health a lot lately. That's been my latest passion, is to share my story, to talk about mental health as a person who has lived experience. Sorry, as the TV has just gone on. As someone who has lived experience with that. So I talk about my journey a lot. I talk about being a single mom and what that was like, transitioning into that. And so that's been my passion, is just to share my story so that other people know they're not alone, that there's another side to it, that you could still be a good mom, and that you're not defined by the chapter that you're currently living through.
Yes, yeah. And I just want to say that you are the mom of a diva. Your IG is here, but you know, the diva here is your daughter, just to let that be known. Okay.
Yes, she sure is. She sure is. That little personality, she's 8.5, let me be corrected. That's a very important half at these stages in life. And you know what? She has stretched me in so many ways throughout my journey. And then I just recently found out that that's actually like, there's like what would you call a psychological component to that. So it's not just in my head. There's actually new research about that. So I'm like, oh, I need to go learn more about that. So I am part of this, and it's actually quite normal, which I didn't realize. So I feel honored to be part of the normal world. Yes.
Oh my God, for once, we finally made it, right? We finally figured out how to be normal.
Yes, right? Whatever that means, you know. Whatever that means. But it's actually a thing that when you become a mom, there's a part of your functional brain that actually goes through growth, like when you're a teenager. You know what I mean? So you know how we say brain development ends around 20 and things like that. But apparently when you become a mom, there's more development and pathways that occur because you're now taking care of a new personality. So as they're growing, you're actually growing. So there's actually this whole new research being done. It's still very young, still very new, but your executive function, that's the word, your executive function is actually growing on a journey too. So I was like, good FYI.
Yes, I
Yeah.
will have to look more into that for
Yes.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your your experience as a single mom, as a mom who has been managing her mental health and wellness. Hello, our friend. We can't see your
Hello.
name, but hello.
Hello.
And we know that these journeys are not linear, right? It's not. I've been dealing with my mental health and wellness as a priority because of these difficulties and challenges I've been facing, and then I'm perfect and everything is fine for the rest of life. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey, about the cycle, about the ups and downs, and how you're able to kind of maintain that forward direction throughout all of it?
So I'll start with my phrase. Every interview I've ever done, anything I ever do, my phrase is, you have to be your strongest when you're at your weakest, right? So I say this everywhere I go, anything I do. And the reason I say that is because once you are at a place where you realize, I'm not 100%, there's something going on, I need some help. It is, it can be difficult to navigate the system, to get your name on a waiting list, to
Yeah.
find a professional that understands you, right?
Yeah.
And if you have, I wasn't working. So financially, it is difficult to find someone. That means that you're dealing with a lot of wait lists, right? So I always say you need to be your strongest because you have to advocate for yourself to actually get services. And I think one of the things that I've really learned along the way is that just because you find a counselor and it doesn't work out with that counselor doesn't necessarily mean there's something wrong with you or that counselor. It just means you need to find the right fit. And
Yeah.
so that's why I'm like, that's something I wish somebody had told me. And that's what something I like to share is that it's okay that if you and your counselor don't, you guys are not niching, they're not understanding you, they're
Yeah.
not, you know what I mean? You're not getting your
Yeah.
needs met. It's important that you walk away not feeling defeated, but understand that it's your right and your opportunity to find someone who can meet your need.
Yeah.
And so those were my challenges, was really to find support. The other thing was I did it in isolation. I didn't talk about it at all because I was embarrassed. It happened during a time like right now, there's a big move about mental health and talking in the Black community and those type of things. When I had gotten my diagnosis, it wasn't, those conversations weren't as big as they are right now.
Right.
So I did a lot of it in isolation. I did a lot of it feeling embarrassed, feeling ashamed, feeling like I was failing my daughter. Just all these negative emotions were surrounding me at the time. And so as this movement has come to the forefront, I'm just like, I'm trying to be a part of that as well, to say, yes, it's okay to say that I'm not okay. And I've had to say that lately. I'm not okay. It doesn't mean that I'm in a dark hole. It just means I need to
Right.
pull some things from my resource bag. And that's the other thing
Right.
too, right? It's just important to have, I call it a toolbox. Find
Yeah.
as much resources as you can so that when you're not feeling your best, or you want to maintain where you're at, or whatever has happened, pull from that so that
Yeah.
you can take care of yourself. And when you have low energies, you do this much, and when your energy is more, you do this much, and being okay with that. So acceptance is another thing I talk about too. It's just accepting where you're at.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time fighting myself about what was happening, and that made the journey so much more harder
Yeah.
because, I mean, with so many things, the first step is acceptance, right? And
Right.
there's a reason why that's the first step, because now you've taken that out of the way and you're like, okay, now what else do I do? And I think that's very important. to just admit there's something going on, even if and when I got the label, right, I was so traumatized by it, but I needed that label to access help.
Right.
So it's how you look at it as well, right? You
Yeah.
can look at it and think, oh my God, or you can think, you know what, now I can finally get help. The
Yeah.
way that the system is set up is that a lot of times you need a diagnosis in order to access a lot of services, right? There could be a lot of, arguments, pros and cons to that, but there's some services that you cannot access without a label.
Right.
There's counseling you could get without it, but there's other services like CAMH and all these things, right? Like you once they see you, they kind of say, okay, this is what you're dealing with, and then they can kind of stream you into their services or what have you. So it could be a helpful tool. It could be a
Yeah.
helpful tool, right? So that's kind of, you know, my
Yeah.
story in a nutshell.
I want to talk a little bit about that, the duality of the labeling, especially because you work with children who have been labeled, and that triggers the support and the help that you can now provide to a teacher. So that's good for the child in that sense. But then that child is also growing through a system that has a name and a tagline.
Right.
Right. And so before teachers even meet this child, they have an introduction, right?
Right.
Name and tagline. What is that dynamic like? Knowing that you are more than this diagnosis, but that this diagnosis is also your key card, right, to
Right.
access the help that you need.
So I will take it from a two-prong approach. So I actually do have a learning disability as well. So I actually went through the school system with a learning disability that actually wasn't recognized. Although I had the label, I actually
Mhm.
didn't get any help. So there's that side of it.
Mm.
There's the side of it that you get the label and you get help, and there's the part of getting the label
No.
and having stereotypes attached to you, right?
Mhm.
So I think that as a parent in a parental role, you're the advocate, right? So you're
Yes.
that person to present your child. This is my child. This is the like these are the needs that we have. This is what my child is capable of, and just to be alert to what's happening, right? Because people have biases, and so you just
Right.
stay alert and be there with that. And so I just think it's important for you as a parent, um, have that tool bag. I call everything a tool bag. Have what you need in your tool bag so that you can present it. Sometimes it's frustrating because you're like, this is the professional, they should know. But you know what? It is just easier for everyone involved. If you have helpful information,
Yeah.
share what you feel would help your child in that moment. You don't have to share everything if it's not helpful in that situation,
Right.
but be mindful of what can help, share what can help. And if it can't help, um, then just leave that part out. And so
Yeah.
I just think that you just kind of recognize, you just do what you can. You do what you can.
Yeah.
You use your judgment. You trust your intuition. And although there's that emotional part of it that feels like, oh my God, I have this
Mhm.
thing happening, work through that. That's real. That's
Right.
important to acknowledge. That's important to work through. But understand that this is also a card that you can use to get you what you need.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I don't think you should deny what you're feeling, but accept it and use it moving forward.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm
Yes.
just moving as the
Yeah.
internet's glitching for me.
Well, I think that's really important when we start to realize that all of the things that are happening in our lives are giving us opportunities to go one direction or another, right? And a lot of it comes down to the perspective that we choose to have. So we can, like you said, you have this diagnosis. You needed the help. That's why you went for the diagnosis. You needed the support, and so you reach out for the support that you need. And now that you have it, okay, well, there are lots of different possible responses to it, but then we can come to a place that says,
Can you hear
okay,
me?
yes, I
I
can
can't
hear
hear
you.
you.
I can hear you. We can all hear you, Carolee. Carolee, can you hear
I
us?
can hear you. I can hear you. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, yes. So as we come to this point where we then decide, okay, well, I'm going to choose, like you said, I'm going to go into my tool bag and I'm going to choose to use this information in this way because it's helpful to me in this way. And there's a sense of being able to bring some calm, to look at the current situation and then to look forward a little bit. And it brings me to our first question for today. In your opinion, what is the importance of vision, of that same ability to look at what's happening today and then to look forward?
So, as a person who's had learning disability, a vision wasn't a part of my life for a very long time. And that's part of the diagnosis. And so, as I've used my tools, I've now learned how important a vision is because it's the roadmap of where you're going. So, part of my learning disability, you just kind of fly off the seat of your pants. You just kind of do. You just kind of land where you land and you deal with what you deal with, and it is what it is. And then you're like, oh, this didn't quite work out. There was no plan, you know?
Yeah.
And so part of learning more about my learning disability, I've learned how important it is to have a plan, have a vision,
Mm,
because then you can plan for, possible roadblocks. You can plan for what to do when you actually arrive. It
mhm.
also helps you to celebrate when you've arrived at a destination, right? Because sometimes
Yes,
in this
yes,
life, we don't celebrate when
yes,
we've arrived. So it kind of helps you to feel successful. It helps you to feel
yes.
like you have purpose. It helps you to feel accomplished, right? So I feel a vision is very important because as a person who's just kind of let's just see what happens, then when somebody says, "Well, what have you accomplished?" You're like,
Right. Well, you don't really know.
I don't know,
Yeah.
right? But this
Yeah.
helps you to build up your own self-esteem because you now know what you have done, right? And then
Yes.
you're not so reliant on external forces to define who you are,
Yes.
and to give you validation. So that's why I feel it's important.
Yeah. No, I don't know if it's still glitchy on your side. The video is a little glitchy on our side, but we can hear everything you're saying without a problem. Um,
Okay,
so
I can hear
audio
you.
is
So
still
so
coming
far
through
so
good.
good.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I like the idea that vision helps build our self-confidence. That's something that we deal with as all people for sure, but in this specific conversation with visionary women, we're really confident when it comes to talking about our businesses and our nonprofit organizations and our community work, and we're really confident in those spaces. But when it comes time to talk about ourselves personally, that confidence shifts, and we start realizing, some timidity. And having a vision, we understand vision for the business, we understand vision for the nonprofit, but vision for our own personal lives is a place where we can draw on that self confidence that says, because now you can track, right? Now you can say, oh, wait a minute, I planned to do this and I was able to do 55% of it, and celebrate that as a win, right?
Mhm.
As opposed to this binary, fail or succeed, oh, I didn't do it. But so much happened in that process, but because you have the vision for your personal life, you're able to track back and to say, okay, I can see where this was helpful. I actually did something here. I made some movement here, and I really want our women to be able to hear that and to pull that out, that the relationship between defining and clarifying our vision and building our own self-confidence. Now, in this process of building, has there ever been a time where you felt as though your own voice was diminished or silenced?
Yes. Unfortunately, I think in high school, there came a point where I knew something was wrong, or I didn't know. Well, I didn't know what was happening, to be honest. I mean, it was a high school brain. I didn't know what was going on, right? And so I was reliant on the school to give direction and whatever else. And unfortunately, I came across some teachers that weren't so helpful. right? And not knowing what I was dealing with, then you just take on the negativity of what they've said, and then you just become silent within yourself. And then you don't even realize that you're being silenced until, you know, you come across something or you see somebody else, which is why these interviews are so important. Because then when you hear someone's story, you could say, oh, that's, yeah. And then in that moment, when you get a aha, you don't feel so like, oh my goodness, you realize that you've lost your voice. And in that moment, then you get your voice back. And that's how I've been able to find my voices from just listening to some awesome women talk.
Yeah.
And throughout the years, and just coming across amazing women who have spoken some things that they saw in my life, and it's helped to take away that negative voice that I heard so many years ago,
Yes.
and take away some of the residue that was left behind.
Yeah.
And then it's now helping me that I can share my story in hopes that somebody else can find their voice.
Yes, yes. And I mean, that's something really big. And one of the reasons why, you know, this Her Story platform and the mastermind approach is so crucial, because we understand the silencing. You know, we understand when we are completely shut down and cut out. And, you know, it's not about appropriate versus inappropriate. It's not about the space. It's about you as a woman, you know, not wanting to be heard here, right? It's about your entire presence being a bother, right? And so, because we've experienced that, we are the ones who then create the space that says, okay, you can speak here, right? We do want to hear from you here. And not only do we want to hear from you and do we value what you say, but we know that when you start to speak, other women will find their voices as well. And so that empowerment becomes, it's like the reverse cycle, you know, it creates a new cycle that we can live through and embrace. Now, you are an author, right? You are a published author, and you've taken up the challenge to actually, you know, put pen to paper and write down, capture your own version of your story. And I remember, if I might quote, I remember reading your chapter in the anthology, and this idea that it's not your job to police the relationship between your daughter and her father, you know, and just kind of this settling within yourself that you knew exactly how you wanted to frame your contribution to your daughter's relationship, etc. Can you tell us how that made you feel then, writing the story actually, and how it makes you feel, this continued idea that you can take control of the narrative of your story that's told?
Oh, good afternoon. I just see someone saying hello there. You know, Nadia, writing that, okay, so that book, there's a newer version now in circulation, and the version that I'm in is not in circulation anymore. However, when I wrote that chapter, it was so hard
Mhm.
because now I'm taking responsibility
Yeah.
for how I want this story to be related, right?
Mm.
There's no more blaming anybody else. This is now a
Yeah.
moment of ownership.
Yeah.
And as great as that sounds, it's scary because now you're removing excuses,
Yes.
right? You're now removing the crutches of the things that held you in that bondage state,
Mhm.
right? Like you've allowed all these narratives and people's opinions and all these things to hold you.
Yeah.
And now you're taking that moment to say, I'm going to walk in my freedom.
That's right.
Oh, that was hard. I'm not even going to like that. I'm thankful for that chapter because that the person who put that together, oh my goodness, she walked with me through that
Mhm.
and just encouraged me. And I think it's so important for you to be surrounded by strong
Mhm.
people who have gone before you, people who are even walking with you because you guys are doing it together.
Yes.
It's not a time to be in isolation. I think as a community, oftentimes we close the door, we hide in our shame, and
Yes.
we do all these things. But now I'm opening up the window and I'm like, I am not ashamed anymore. I am owning it. It is me,
Yes.
all of me. And I was conscious about that chapter because once you put it in print, I'm like, my daughter could read this at any point.
Right.
And so I really wanted to write it in a way that was authentic to other people, to say, this is where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I've gone through. This is how I've gotten through it.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the choices that I'm making. And so when I talk about not policing their relationship, that was me liberating myself to say
Yes.
that because you just hold on to everything so tight, and it's your
Mm-hmm.
baby, and she was 3 when we separated, and I'm letting her out on my side, and can you do it? And just all these overwhelming things, and just
Yes.
exhaling and letting it go.
Yeah.
And I had to hold on to my faith, trust God. And I'm like, you know what? It's her dad. Like, you know what I mean? Part of it is like even though you and him are, like, he's hurt me, right? Like that relationship hurt me. The ending of the relationship hurts me.
Yeah.
But that's not on her. He didn't
Right.
abandon her. Like he's not leaving her. He's
Right.
continuing his relationship. So just trying to contextualize things,
Mm-hmm.
and accepting my hurt for my hurt,
Mm-hmm.
and leaving them to work out their relationship, and just reminding myself of that. So that was that journey of going through that, because it was very close to when we had separated. So there was just a lot of growth happening in that moment. And I was being captured in that chapter.
Yes, yes. It was so powerful. It was so powerful because I did feel the liberation, you know, and I want all of our women to hear and to understand this. We know that all of the circumstances and the situations are different from relationship to relationship. And Carolee is talking about her choice and the way how she went through and how it helped her. And if you can glean from that and take some help from that, please, by all means. And there are situations where moms have to make very difficult decisions to separate children from fathers who present themselves as abusive in all kinds of different ways. But what she's saying is, you know, she did not have that situation with her daughter and her husband, and she had to separate the pain she was experiencing from the relationship with her daughter and her dad and the daughter's father. And that then gave her the chance to, you know, to breathe anew and refresh and realize that, yes, she's here for her daughter, but she can be here for her daughter while her daughter is there, you know? And for us as moms, like, we want to be there for everything, and we want to make sure everything goes perfect. And then the child can't breathe either, you
No,
know?
for sure. And
Yeah.
and just to add to that, when I had her, a girlfriend of mine gave me the best advice ever. She said, listen, dads do things dad's way, and you do things a mom's way, right?
Mhm.
And so sometimes it's not that it's not being done. Sometimes it's not being done the way that I would do it, right?
Right.
And so just trying to work through all of those type of things. And you're right, like everybody has to know their own situation, but that was my story, right? Like it was very important for me not to do the parent alienation. It was very important for me to support the relationship as long as it remained healthy, as
Right.
long as I didn't feel that she was in danger or anything
Right.
like that. Um, and I find, and for me personally, I wanted her to see 2 adults who may not agree, but can still work together to support her.
Yeah.
And that even though you may be in conflict with somebody, there is a way to interact,
Yeah.
um, that doesn't dishonor you. It doesn't make you less than, but you can still
Right.
hold your integrity in place and still, have healthy boundaries. You know what I mean? So
Yes. Yeah.
exactly, everybody has to work that out, and I'm very mindful of that. But for me, that was my story, and that was me being conscious to say
Yes.
this is what I want to do, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And that creates
despite
a
the
win.
history.
Yeah, that creates a win for everyone involved. You know, that creates the opportunity for everyone to win. Everyone gets to come to the table. There's, like you said, there are boundaries, there are respect lines, there's space, there's opportunity for dialogue, and it creates a win, most importantly, for the child involved. But we're here too. We're mommies, we're people, we're humans, we're in the mix, and we want it to be a win for us as well.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a long time to actually be okay with her being gone for whatever, a night, a weekend, or whatever, and
Mm.
actually taking that time to do something for myself that was about
Mm.
me, right? That was about
Yeah,
celebrating me. That was about, going out for dinner or hanging out
yeah,
with friends or what have you. That took a minute to not feel guilty about that, right? Like, there's just, or not taking that time to get all caught up on laundry and cleaning. And
yeah,
like, that's a whole other like segment, right? Just embracing that moment and
yeah,
just, that's just a journey in and of itself. And that was
yeah,
definitely the starting point of my journey. And that chapter is the rawness and the realness of the beginning parts
yeah.
of my grieving process, of my disappointment about the whole thing. So that was right in the thick of it.
Yeah, that's a really powerful reframe, that now this is not about, only about how I feel in this situation, but this is me. Oh, I now have an opportunity. I now have time to pour into myself. I'm always busy. I'm always saying I can't. I'm always saying, all of these reasons and excuses why I can't, spend time with myself, spend time with my friends. But now I have an opportunity. That's a really powerful reframe, and a good encouragement for our women who are listening, who are currently going through separations, who are currently dealing with this. When you're in the thick of it, like you were coming out of it when you wrote that chapter, but for women who are in the thick of it, what is one piece of advice that you would give to her? She's dealing with this situation right now.
The one thing that I knew that I needed to do was just to be honest about the ending of the relationship. I
Mm,
didn't realize that that was a grieving process. I found that out later on. And when I realized that I was grieving the loss of my dream of that relationship, when I took my vows, what that meant, like, I wasn't supposed to be in this situation, right? Like, I did it all right. And I think I needed a minute to really embrace that part of it, and that it was okay to grieve it. There was parts where I couldn't grieve it because I was in the middle of, you got to move, you got to this, you got to
right.
that. But and I didn't actually get to grieve until later on. And so grief can come at any point, and I think we just need to be honest about that. It could show up right then and there, and it could show up later on, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And you know take it bit by bit, break it down, and do the pieces that you can control.
Mhm.
There's going to be good days, there's going to be bad days. Be honest with that. And you know um, one advice I got that was really important is always remember what's in the best interest of the child.
Yeah.
When in doubt, just ask, is this in the best interest of the child? Because
Exactly.
like, the hurt is real, and it could
Yes.
cloud your perception about things. But to
Yes.
remind yourself, is this in the best interest of my child?
Yes.
That will help you to decide whether or not the choice you're making
Yeah.
is made from hurt or made in the best interest of your child. And
Yes.
and trust your gut, right?
Yes.
Oftentimes, we don't give um, enough recognition to your intuition. And
Yes.
if your intuition is telling you something, follow
Listen.
that,
Yeah.
right? Because there are so many ups and downs about children when they're going to that other person's house, and things change, right?
Mhm.
People are changing, whatever is happening. Trust your gut,
Mhm.
and follow through with anything that you have. And at the end of the day, that's still your child. You do what you have to do to protect your child,
Yes.
right? And you
Yeah.
set whatever boundaries that is necessary
Mhm.
for what is in the best interest of that child.
Yeah.
That's my thing, right? So,
Yeah.
and just know that it will get better. That's my message.
Yes.
It gets better. Right now, it may be thick and it may be heavy. And
Mhm.
if somebody had told me at the beginning that I would be talking about my journey in this way without breaking out into tears, not that I don't have sad moments, but like,
Yeah.
I can actually talk about it and say, honestly, it will get better.
Yeah.
It does get better. The children, they find their way through. They're more resilient than we can ever imagine. And so are we.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. It gets better, sisters. It gets better.
It
You
gets
know,
better.
we are in the thick of multiple situations at a time, but it gets better, absolutely. Now, we believe that, when we take these steps, and we went on a bit of a tangent there, but I thought it was important to spend some time there. um, when we take these steps through, clarifying our vision and amplifying our voice, and choosing when, where, and how we will use our voice, understanding strategy in using our voice, understanding, appropriate, and, just what is the best case scenario here for my own voice. And then we take the time to write the version of our story, whether physically write it down or to make determinations about the story that we want to be told about us, and taking some control of that narrative, that we believe that it brings us to the opportunity to live lives of victory. What is the image that comes to your mind? What imagery do you create mentally when you hear a word like victory? Hey, have we lost audio now too? Oh no.
Oh, I had the mute on.
You
I'm
were
so sorry.
on mute. Naughty. Very naughty.
You know what? There was a truck passing by, and sorry. So I was saying, I heard women talk about it in the other interviews. What does victory mean? I was like, what does that mean to me? And the image that came to my mind is just right when the sun started, my daughter and I, it was just one of those days. It was online learning. It was just too much. So we came out and the sun was out, and we just kind of leaned back into the sun and just allowed the sun to hit us in our face. And I said, you know what? That is victory for me. It is that moment when you ease back,
Yeah.
embrace it, and all the sun rays around you. Like, that's the image I have, is leaning into the sun, the sun rays hitting your skin, and you are embracing all the chapters of your life. And that is me without shame. That is me without, explanation. It's just embracing all of me. So that's my image. It's just in the water with the sun hitting you, floating, embracing your life's journey as it is. No comparison, no, guilt, no shame, just embracing your life. That's my image of victory.
I love that. I love that. Lean back, embrace it, bask in it, enjoy all of it. The sun is in the sky, but there's still clouds. The sun is still up there shining when it's raining. Enjoy the glimmer of sun, even if it's just a little peep, a little taste of sun. If it's the, middle of winter, still
it was cold, but it was basking in it, just basking in it, because things just turn around, and in the thick of it, it feels like there's no way this is gonna get better, but it does.
Yes,
it does get better, and it will get better.
Absolutely. So it gets better. I think that's like the big takeaway from today. Through all the journeying, through all the ups and downs, through all of the opinions, through everything, it gets better. Absolutely. Oh, Carolee, thank you so very much for doing this with me this afternoon, for being a part of this conversation. I mean, I learn every time we get together. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you for having me.
And to our sisters out there, we'll make sure that you can connect with Carolee and find out more about the work she's doing. Sorry. It went down the wrong side.
Are you okay?
I'm like talking, I'm like trying to swallow, and it's not working out at the same time. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I'm laughing at myself. Okay, ladies, thank you for going deeper with us. We'll make sure you can go deeper with Carolee. We'll make sure you can go deeper with all of our events and our masterminds we have coming up. And I'm going to go get some water because my voice is shot right now. So thank you to everyone. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
You too. Take care of that cough. And
yeah.
Okay. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
I've been talking every day,
Thanks
so
again.
that's probably my voice being like, time out.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Hey, sister, sitting store, what am I about to preach on? Damn, sister, close the door. Watch what you step out on. I said, hey, sister, so before you become a sin, I said, hey, sister, there is more, even if you think there isn't. When you live your life day to day, there will always be obstacles in your way. But don't let that get you down, girl.